Let's now go to Bosch, the German engineering giant, and they have very significant successes to share with us. And I'm joined now from Germany by Torsten Kallweit, who's CTO of Bosch Climate Solutions. Torsten, very good to see you. We want to hear in the next 20 minutes from you about how you set your targets for net zero and what you have done to meet them in advance of the deadline you set yourself. And by the way, I should say to anyone, please send questions as well for Torsten. Torsten, what have you done at Bosch?
Hello, Nick. Good morning. Nice to be here. We have started a program 2 years ago and published this on our annual press conference 2019 that we want to become with our more than 400 locations worldwide, or in our expert mode, how we call it, scope 1 and 2, climate neutral to the year 2020. And we also announced we want to spend an investment of 1 billion euros to the year 2030 for energy efficiency. How do we do it? We have a program consisting of 4 levels, how we call it. First one is the most important one, is the energy efficiency. The kilowatt hour that we don't use at all. It's saving the resources, it's saving the CO2 emission, and at the end, for sure, it's also saving costs. And this is what we are interested in. We plan to reduce our energy consumption absolutely by minus 20% compared to the base year 2018. And this is a volume of 1.7 terawatt hours, or you can compare it with the CO2 emissions coming from the electricity consumption of the private households of 4 huge German cities like Stuttgart, Hamburg, Cologne, and Berlin. So you see, it's a very huge amount of energy that we want to save. But at the end, this is not enough. We will still use energy, and therefore the second lever takes care about the renewable energy. And what is important there for us is to add new additional capacities to the market. On the one hand, by using our areas, our locations, our roofs and our locations ourselves, but also to make some power purchasing agreements for new photovoltaic farms, wind farms outside to get higher volumes. And what is very important, just to emphasize again, that this is additional capacity that we bring by this to the market. And the third one is to purchase green electricity. It's very simple, you can do it, but you just have to do it. The only problem is, or the challenge that we had to solve, how to do it in more than 40 countries all around the globe. The wonderful news that we have is that in a lot of countries, not only in Europe, you can find green energy markets, and the energy is available. So you just have to make the contracts. And the fourth lever, for all the things which are unavoidable on a short period of time, we have to think about a carbon offset. But because all the other 3 levers I mentioned before were so successful in the last 3 years, we were able to reduce this amount to 28% of the whole CO2 emissions that we had in our base year 2018. We planned with much more, and we're much more successful. But this is enough.
And you met
we
the
want
deadline.
to reduce this to a minimum by 15% to 2030.
And you met your deadline well in advance of the deadline you set.
Yes, we did. We are carbon neutral in 2020.
How did you do that?
And with these 4 levers, the most parts in the short-term view is a green electricity that we purchase around the globe, plus the compensation. But we were more successful also with energy efficiency and renewables than we thought before. We are much better than we planned in our long-term plan to 2030. And what's very important,
now,
that we are not saying something, we also validated this by an external auditing company.
Sorry, there's quite a delay on the track here, on the link. Let me ask you this though, Torsten, and do please, anyone out there, send questions. One of the fascinating things is the board process you went through in order to get this approved. Tell us what happened when you put these proposals to the board, expecting them to be rather lukewarm about spending so much money. but actually what their reaction really was?
Yeah, in our project team, we were not really sure what might be the reaction of our board members. Do they really want to give us a feedback that way they want to go this way, that they want to spend some money on this? And the reaction was always very, very positive. And the feedback that we got in different steps was, is more possible. And so we started with a reduction program for the climate reduction. We started with ideas to reduce 30 or 50 or 60%. And at the end, there was something like a race with our management. Is it possible to become carbon neutral? And what might be the business case behind? And so it was absolutely, the different reaction than a lot of people would suggest in such a situation. And I just can encourage everyone just to go the same way and just to ask, just to make some suggestions. And I'm sure that a lot of managements and boards will also give some positive reactions.
So you had 400 projects, which have now become 2,000, almost overwhelming, but also the issue of the speed, the rapidity with which you got money and were told to get on with it fast.
Yeah, when we before we started the program, we had a long experience in energy efficiency, and you can say we had an average of 400 projects for energy efficiency per year. And with the start of our new program, we were able to not just to double it; it was a factor of 5. We have now more than 2,000 projects which are active, where the people are working on. And it's like a competition. We don't make a central planning for the whole process. It's just using the motivation, the ideas of our employees at the locations. They can make suggestions for improvement and for saving the energy. And when they send us their ideas, we gave the promise from the corporate side to give a feedback in a time frame of 4 weeks, and in a positive case, to give them also the money in 4 weeks, so that there's no really a time frame between an idea and the start of the implementation.
But one of the remarkable things, of course, is what must have happened to the mindset of employees. Were they being encouraged? Engineers don't like to fail, for example. Were they being encouraged to take risks, to think differently, and has that really endured as a change of mindset?
Yes, for sure. I think 2 things are very important. The first one is that there's a clear management commitment that failures are allowed. This is really a little bit strange to a technology company that you have a failure culture, but this is necessary because otherwise you don't get the new ideas and you are not really innovative. And the second thing, what we have learned, the people are motivated. The only thing that you have to avoid is the demotivation of the people. And when you just take what is out there and help them to be creative and give them the chance to give this also to the corporate gremiums, and then to get a positive feedback, that's the best thing you can do.
Were you thinking that this is quite a risk, a professional risk you're taking? Have you been almost surprised at the change in culture, the change in mindset, and the result there has been the very positive result, Torsten?
No, I don't think that it is any kind of risk. When I just give you some figures about the feedback of our employees, we just make a study how the management thinks about all this process. We have an acceptance level of more than 80% by the upper management and the middle management of the company to the overall program and to the strategy for carbon neutrality. And what is more, our employees show a feedback of 85% of the last request to this program and say, yes, you're on the right way. This is a great project. We have to support it. And a lot of initiatives come out of the different locations in the world where the people get active and try to participate in this program and yes, take their part. It's really great to be a part of it.
I've got a question here from Susan Hooper, who's an NEG chair. How did the board agree to offsetting to meet net zero targets, and how to get assurance that the offsetting is high quality, e.g. long-term sequestration, non-repetitive, nature-based or not? In other words, and it's my word, not Susan's, how did you get over the fact that you were trying to, there may be a suspicion you're trying to mislead with kind of optimistic data as opposed to the reality?
The first thing is we have to take care of a base understanding. For us, compensation or offsetting is just something like a bridge technology. At the moment, there are some parts of our emissions we cannot avoid. We have to emit short-termly, but that doesn't mean that we work on it and want to make this part and want to reduce this part significantly also in the future. Concerning the selection of the different programs, we really took high quality criteria. The first one is that we just take care about the gold standard projects and the verified carbon standard projects. And additionally, we defined together with an external consulting company a huge catalog of additional criteria. For example, the age of the different certificates when they were brought to the market, so that we can, yes, be sure as much as possible that they are very serious. And the most important thing that we did, that we really want to put these certificates annually from the market. And we do it in the official registers of VCS, of gold standard and so on, so that everybody can see that we really do it in a serious way and don't say stupid things here.
I've got a question here, Torsten, from Dirk Nevelstein from Nevelstein Insights. Do you expect a positive life cycle return, or do you expect in the end there is a financial cost to becoming carbon neutral?
Yes, we think so. We are convinced of it. So we have our business case behind, and I think it's fair enough to have as a company which is business driven, this case behind. We think that we can save the money that we spend on, and I talked about the €1 billion we spent in energy efficiency in the time frame of the next year, so that at the end we have a win-win situation for the climate, but also for the money in our pockets. And what is more, it's like an innovative motor for ourselves. Sorry.
What about the relationship with your employees and also with your customers? Because this is about a real change in mindset and potentially in relationship. How would you summarize? I mean, this is about human beings either buying your stuff or producing and designing the stuff. What kind of impact have you seen, and what can you encourage others to do?
I think that we are human beings, and you have to find the right way of pressure to us. When it's too much and you don't believe that you can reach a target, nothing will happen. But when it's too less, nobody will start. And the art is to find exactly the point in the middle where you give them some pressure. And therefore we made our program, gave it to the public and said what we want, to force ourselves to be innovative, to be creative, and this not only in our internal view for our locations, but also for our product development and the product portfolio that we have in the markets. Because a lot of things and learnings that we have, you can transfer from the locations also to the products in the product portfolio.
Because in the end, are you talking about a very positive reaction from customers and a positive reaction from employees? Have you let people go, for example, employees who simply couldn't cope with this dramatic change of spirit and mood for their work conditions and the work expectations from them now? The idea that they can actually fail or experiment safely.
It's like always in lifetime, you never can make everybody happy. I think when you really have a majority of 85% of the employees who are really convinced behind you and support you, you can be very happy about this. And the transformation is necessary, and we see the chances in there, and therefore we decided strategically to move forward on that way.
Now, let me ask about, we've got about 5 minutes left, Torsten. Let me ask about where you think this will go, because you've made a point that you can't eat the whole elephant at once. The enormity of what we're talking about here, particularly for energy transition, is a significant reduction in everything. What can you achieve and how can you do that? What kind of targets are you now setting yourself, say, for the next year, for the next 2 years, 3 years, 4 years?
So we work on two main points. The first one is that we want to improve the quality of our carbon neutrality program for scope 1 and 2 with 2020. We want to increase the energy efficiency. We want to increase also the volume of what we call new clean power, and we want to reduce all the things concerning the offsetting. But what is more important, that we are working also on the scope 3, which is much, much higher, as we learned, than the influence that we take on scope 1 and 2 emissions. We have a factor of more than 100. So our impact is very, very high, and this means our responsible is very, very high. Therefore, we made a self-commitment with the Science-Based Target Initiative to reduce the global absolute footprint by minus 15% to the year 2030, what means that all growth that we have in that time frame also has to be reduced, because we are talking about absolute figures and absolute reductions. And there, as you said, you have to cut the elephant into pieces. You have to not to do everything at the same time. We are focusing at the moment on our product portfolio on the one hand side, and on the other hand side on the purchasing of goods and materials and logistics to reach these targets.
I've got a question here, Torsten, from Rick Walters, Chief of Standards and Innovation at GRESP BV. Sure, the ROI looks good, but is there also an opportunity cost? Could those resources that have been used for energy efficient projects have saved even more money doing something else? Otherwise, they weren't these projects happening anyway, as being just good business. In other words, a degree of skepticism there.
Yeah, for sure. But we made analysis very, very deeply, and the outcome was for our business and our portfolio and our responsibility that this is really a good investment to spend the money in this time frame on the energy efficiency topics, and to use it not only for our internal return, but also to use the innovative power of it for our products and product development.
I was intrigued by something I saw you said, and you actually said it to me when we met before this discussion. We have opened the box and we've now given them the playground. That's a form of liberation and ventilation, which would not normally be the case in a major technology company like yours with 400,000 employees, giving them the playground.
Yes, this is like the example that I mentioned before with the energy efficiency project. We do it also with renewable energy. They have the playground because they know it much better than we do from a corporate point of view, and they are motivated, and we just, yes, give them the playground to play. And this is also a huge experience for us that this really works, and this is changing the culture of our company very, very much.
I've got a question here from Javier Dominguez, Managing Director of Twefter Limited. What about having programs about recyclability and or using respectful materials, reducing wrapping and plastics, etc.? How much have you built into that? And I can see you nodding there, Torsten.
Yeah, it's part of the Scope 3 project for purchasing that I mentioned 2 minutes before. They're one of the main points we work on, the circular economy, and especially for the materials you mentioned there in the question.
But how much are you going to take this much further? the basis of everything you're doing. You are now challenging, you are now questioning. Recycling paper and wrapping is one thing, but it's about the whole nature of what you're producing, surely.
Yeah, it's like the elephant that you mentioned before. You really have to cut it in pieces. I'm really convinced when you do it all at once, you don't have a chance to be successful because the whole system is too complex. But when you just take the main parts of each hot spot that you have identified, then you really have a chance to work on it. For us, means that we work very often based on the Pareto principle, and that we know what in our purchasing part are those goods who have the highest carbon footprint. And so let's start with them and then not go to those ones which are just on the position 80, 90 or something like this. Take the 5 ones who are really taking some effort to the whole carbon footprint and really build up their recycling case.
A question here from Alex Hunter, CEO of Sherwood Power. How can Bosch help with battery waste and recycling of batteries? What are you doing on that? That is a core part of the challenge in technology at the moment.
As I said before, we are working on all these stuff. We have defined our priorities for the goods, and step by step, we work on all the different fractions that we have.
What about where this is now going and what it means for the company? Because there is, through this questioning, and I can imagine other companies and other corporates of the both large and SMEs who are less confident, who have liquidity challenges and so on, in this very difficult time, who are saying this has to be a cost. We cannot see a benefit initially, despite the imperative of zero solutions. What is your message to them? Obviously, you've got the liquidity, you've got the financial security, but what would you say to those who are more anxious, those who are more nervous, those who are more worried about whether they could survive, I use that word, this kind of enormous transition, despite the necessity, as we've heard from the International Energy Agency from their report last week?
We are convinced that it's more expensive to wait than just to start and to do it. And what is really impressing, the more you go into the details and the more you focus on the main parts of the business, the more you find business cases behind. And you not just see the risks, you also see the chances for your business behind. And what is absolutely clear, the transformation that we see now in our environment, it will happen if we change or not. And therefore, our position is let's take the chance, let's start today and do the best out of the situation that we have.
Torsten, one final question here from Kerry Bailey, risk consultant from Retinue 3 Limited. What focus is there on enhancing the energy efficiency of the actual products made and increasing their longevity for consumers, which obviously means they buy less because they keep it for longer?
You can see it from that side, but you can see it also from the other side. Perhaps there are some other business cases in like new business models. Who says that you have to own a product of us? Perhaps there is a leasing model, the better one, so that you take the ownership of a good, and then after a special time frame at the end of the contract, you decide if you just remanufacture and bring it again to the market, or if you really recycle and build a new project out of it. This is the new way of optimization of the overall cycles and also of the product portfolios, I think.
Well, Torsten, thanks so much for joining us. We look forward to hearing your ambitions and whether you're going to be meeting targets and also advancing the meeting of targets. Torsten Kallweit, who's CTO of Bosch Climate Solutions, thanks very much indeed for joining us for this Energy Transition Summit. Good luck.
Thank you.